go to our partners page, you can also find everybody that we work with, Radvertisers partners, and that includes Kevin Hughey.
Yeah, Kevin!
Super attorney and on time for his visit with us this morning.
Super punctual.
We none of us had that. We made bets yesterday. None of us had you being here at this time.
No, I did. I said you'd be here right on time.
No, you didn't.
Every once in a while, I gotta keep you on your toes, right?
Yeah.
We, you know what? There's been a couple things in the news that I just wanted to ask you about real quickly because people would. I think the first one's just like out there. You're going to roll your eyes, but this PG&E crap last week, where shutting down power and people were displaced and they lost food, and some of them had to cancel. They couldn't go to work, daycare, all under the name of public safety. We did have people writing and saying, "Is there any financial recourse here?" Now, my understanding is the answer is no. But is there anything that anybody can do other than just prepare for the next one?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, PG&E can just point to the Paradise Campfires or something else and say, "What do you want?"
And so
Choose your poison.
Everybody getting ginned up about class action lawsuits and all that, just stop and figure out your way around it.
I would say even if there is a claim, is it because of the nuisance, or do you really want money for the cold cuts that you lost? It's not going to be worth it. I mean, it's true. You're going to join a class action for what? $12?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, class actions, you get into that. And you have to deal with a lot of that, of just the frustration, right? Because I know you understand the human cost of the frustration of people that were displaced, but part of your job is to kind of cut through that and go, look, there's nothing to be done here, just fix the problem sort of thing. And that is part of the gig.
I love getting those letters of something maybe they think you bought or whatever, and it turns out to be there's a class action lawsuit. I always shred. I'm like, oh, what are you going to send me, 10 cents?
Yeah, I got $1.18 once from United Airlines, way back in the 90s. That's when I started learning about class action lawsuits.
Yeah.
So only the lawyers get rich on these things.
I think people used to get excited. Oh, there's a class action lawsuit. Ooh, lots of money. Oh, wait, we have to split it with 5,000 people.
Yeah, there's lots of money, but it's not for us. The other thing, Kevin, a lot of people, we haven't even talked about this on the air, and really I'm just looking for your guidance or initial reaction to a bunch of new laws were signed in California, and we had a lot of gun owners that listen, and there were a bunch of new gun laws in California that are passed, and the one that's getting a lot of people nervous is an expansion of what we call the red flag laws, where people can, if they feel that you're a danger, if they know you're a gun owner and they feel you're a danger, they can report you. And it used to be in California only police officers and family members, but under the new law, teachers, employees, employers, and coworkers will be able to seek temporary firearm confiscation by going to a court and saying, this person's a nut, take their guns away, sort of thing. That's a very broad way of saying it. People are scared. They're freaking out, especially because the ACLU themselves are against it. The claim is that coworkers who want to request a gun violence restraining order will have to have substantial and regular interactions with the gun owners. And, it's not just like, hey, he pissed me off at work. But the bill does allow judges to issue search warrants at the same time as they grant orders. And as a lawyer, what would you advise people? Do you believe that they have to now be very careful about how they behave, not say that they own guns? What is their recourse, that, as far as you're aware of, as this goes down the pike, or anything that you can give them soothing words?
I don't think there are any.
Words.
I think that this is probably another example of a good idea that was turned into crappy law. This is going to create more problems than anything else. I think generally it would be nice to be able to report, somebody's cooking meth next door, but they're doing it in an otherwise undetectable way, right? And they're otherwise following laws, and you may want to ensure that they don't, tweak out one night and shoot up the neighborhood. Not a bad idea, right?
Right, yes.
But otherwise, to have somebody, you get in a dispute with your neighbor about a boundary line or something like that, and now suddenly you've got cops showing up with search warrants.
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah. Okay. That's unfortunately that was my position. I didn't know if you'd have another.
And if people are worried about it, it would, my advice would be just behave.
God,
right?
Doesn't that suck? You can't even be honest and real anymore. You have to because we used to be able to take it, right? You might have some little beef with your neighbor and then you all just get over it or whatever. You can just say it. Or maybe you just always have never liked each other, but no one's ever going to cross that line. And now they do, and you have to think about that.
And coworkers.
Walk on eggshells.
Think of all the disagreements you have with coworkers and the pettiness.
Let me tell you.
Especially here.
Yeah.
But one of the issues for me is it goes beyond guns, right? I mean, you're going to have cops going through your house. They're not going to just go right to your gun safe. They're going to go through your drawers, your bedroom, your
My drawers.
and
Get out of my drawers.
It's private.
even if you don't have anything else to hide. No one wants that. I mean,
No.
that's a horrendous Fourth Amendment issue.
Phone number is 888-989-9011. We got a bunch of emails for Kevin Hughey of Hughey Phillips LLP. We'll start with Chase. Good morning, Chase.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
So a couple weeks ago, my daughter tripped over a divider between the blacktop and the park at her school in her Act 2 after-school program. I had to take her to the emergency room, ended up shouting her humerus,
Ooh,
What?
and
that's not very
I'm
humorous.
going to end up having a lot of doctor's bills. And I'm trying to find out if I'm able to hold the school accountable for it.
If that's the road you want to go down, generally the answer is yes. I mean, there's premises liability. It's pretty straightforward. I'm assuming this is a public school. Maybe it's not. If it's a private school, you've got a better shot. Public schools have some measure of immunity under the government code, so you might have a difficult time enforcing the claims against a public school. But yeah, there's a claim there for sure.
We got this email, rad@radradio.com from Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Says, holy cuss word, Kevin made it there on time. Did he get a police escort?
Maybe I did. What's it to you, Ian?
Here's one from Corinne.
Hi, Corinne.
She says, Kevin recently mentioned starting a recording label. I have a friend who is a musician and songwriter. How would he go about getting his songwriting out there?
Hello.
So let's back up.
Signing people.
Is the label still going?
It is going. There hasn't been like a formal announcement yet. My partner is taking care of all that. He's the brains and the talent. I'm just the business and busy work. There is going to be an album release probably. Well, it's going to be before Halloween in about a week. So we have stuff in the can and ready to go. There just hasn't been a formal outing.
And since your partner, we've mentioned who your partner is, haven't we? Or is that what you want to put that on the download?
I believe so. He's the lead guitarist for Marilyn Manson. His name's Paul Wiley.
Nice.
And since he's the artistry behind it, is he more equipped? Like, do you have any concept of how to answer the question of how would I don't think this person's saying how do I get on your label, but they're saying I got a friend who's a musician. How does he get his songwriting out there?
Right, and there is a formula. There is an answer. I don't have it off the top of my head, and that was part of why when Paul suggested doing this, my first response was absolutely not. Because labels take a lot of time and money, neither of which I have. And there is a way now with social media. There are services for very little money. You can get music released on multiple platforms.
I would guess, like writing a book, it's easier than ever now to get noticed and or even published or do some of these things yourself.
YouTube
Surprisingly
Yeah,
easy.
get your own YouTube channel. Probably depends on how far down you want to go.
There's a modest fee that will put you out on like 5 platforms.
Let's see. This one is from No Name.
Hey, person.
Says, I have a ton of legal questions that I want to ask Kevin, but I don't want it read on air. Can I schedule like an hour appointment either in person or over the phone? Are you at the point where you still do things like that?
I don't have time for that, but if the person would like to call my office and set up a time for a call, yeah, I'm happy to talk to them.
And obviously we should remind people, Hughey Phillips LLP, how many attorneys you got now?
6 or 7.
And
wow,
Nice.
good for you.
And so what? And through there, are all of them capable of doing everything that Hughey Phillips LLP does, or is it like, oh, you want to do this, you're going to see Tristan. You want to do this, you're going to talk to Galen. And so, are there other people when they hear your expertise that you could point them to that might have more time?
I wouldn't advise anybody to take an hour just to sit down and go over a bunch of questions, because that's time that we otherwise should be committing to something else. We don't charge for consultations. I think that's unfortunate.
BS.
Yeah, I was trying.
I
was searching for the right word to spit out there, but I couldn't.
Ball blank.
But I understand why some lawyers choose to. I just don't. Because for me, usually I can tell very quickly if it's something that we're interested in, or if it's something we can even help with. And if not, then I want to point them in the right direction. And that's the end of it. But yeah, I mean, like employment, for instance, Tristan usually does all that, or a lot of the real estate, some of the more complicated transactions, Galen does all that. And then, of course, criminal, Noah does that.
I have a selfish personal law question that I wanted to throw at you, Kevin, since we're
That's a
getting
shocker, Brandon.
free law advice on the air here. I've admitted on the air over the years that I have had 2 DUIs in my past, and it's been it's actually, I think, like 6 or 7 years since my last. I want to say 7 or 8 years, actually, since my last one. And my attorney who represented me at the time, because I didn't know a Kevin Hughey, he just emailed me and said that they're attempting to destroy old files and return important legal documents to their former clients. And he's also working on expunging his former clients as well. And he gave this proposal, said that he would do it for a fee of around $800, but he also gave the option for me to file for myself. And obviously it's up to the judge in order to grant the expungement based on, my record and if I have any further instances since my last DUI. What is your opinion in the whole expungement process? And do you think that fee would be worth it for me to even attempt it?
I think the fee is reasonable. I would qualify it. An expungement motion requires a fair amount of information, evidence provided, because the judge is going to want to see, why should I do this? What have you done in the last 6 years to convince me that this won't happen again? So you want to paper the record pretty well. That could be a fair amount of work. So $800, that's kind of a small number. I would ask him what he plans to do in connection with the motion. Is it worth it? It's absolutely worth it.
Why? What's the benefit of expungement?
Just getting it off your record.
Yeah.
Just it's not sitting there for any
right. In the future, you might have an employer that wants to check your history.
What?
I mean,
So
not for Brandon, anyways.
It should cost more than $800, is what you're saying. Like there should be more work involved in this to actually have it be expunged.
Because of how much I like Brandon, I would want there to be a ton more work to do. I would want there to be so much good stuff to talk about with him that the motion is 1,000 pages long.
Yeah.
He did mention that would be the fee for the actual expungement process, but they also mentioned that if you want to proceed further, contact the office so we can put him on a retainer. Obviously, there's that next level, right? I would have to do that first before I even pay the expungement fee.
Yeah, and working with any lawyer, my advice always is to ask them what their plan is. You want to know what you're paying for, and a lot of the times clients don't understand. They can pull the curtain back. Law is not mystery. There are predictable things and formulas. So just ask, what is it that your plan is? What do you intend to do, and how much are you going to charge me?
Okay.
Phone number is 888-989-9811. We get questions about expungement a lot when you're here. And then to that previous email, whatever they were alluding to, there was a lot of people who are starting businesses or wanting to start businesses. Now, when you and I met, I already owned my company, and there was a thing going on, and somebody helped me, somebody referred me to you. And so we didn't meet under the guise of, hey, Mr. Hughey, I need a business attorney. You just became that ultimately after meeting under that. So back to this first emailer, if somebody were to call your office and say, I need a business attorney, I'm just starting out, or I've been in business a couple of years, I don't have one, I didn't know I need one, then do you have an hour to talk to them? I mean, that's your bread and butter, right?
Right,
Still?
I do.
Okay.
I do, and that's a different situation.
Different thing. I want to make sure we clarify that for people that are listening, of going, oh my God, I need a business.
Yeah, I appreciate, and that's probably 60% of the calls. It's somebody either they want to switch lawyers, or they've gotten to a point where they think they need one, and they've got 10 things they need to talk about.
There's a good question that some people are intimidated by. How easy is it to switch lawyers? A lot of people think it's like, oh my God, this person that I've been working with for years maybe has all of my life, and now I want to fire them, or I'm just not happy, or whatever. What's the lift on that?
It's easier than people think. I think that people need to have more confidence and comfort with their lawyer than they do their doctor. You see your doctor for certain things, but your lawyer has, your professional, personal lives potentially at his or her. That's their responsibility, and there's a lot that goes on with that, and there's got to be a certain level of confidence with that. If you're not happy with your lawyer, all you have to do is send them an email and say, I'd like to change directions.
And they'll transfer everything over to the new law.
By law, they have to. Client files are client property.
And I would assume also some of that burden falls on the quality of the new attorney, who should know how to also walk you through it not being as intimidating.
Correct. And you don't want to put the client in the middle there to have to deal with an awkward situation. I tell people that want to switch horses, just send your lawyer an email, tell them to contact me, and we'll work with the transition.
Phone number is 888-989-9811. Hi, Mitchell.
Hello, Brad and Kevin. I had a quick question. For what little research I did, it looks like you are required some sort of lawyer or agent if you're someone like a writer, screenwriter, something like that, and you want to contact someone to pitch an idea. Do you know about this process, or is there someone that you can refer?
I do know a little bit about the process, and you're not required to have an agent necessarily, but agents typically know people to call. And if you were to start making cold calls, no one may recognize your name, and they may not answer the phone or return your message. Agents are your doors, your foot in the door. You should always have a lawyer if you're going to be pitching something that is copyrightable or otherwise your intellectual property, because you want to make sure it's protected before you start sending it out there in the world. It should be accompanied at least with an NDA or something else.
That's a non-disclosure agreement for those of you that don't know.
I was giving you a chance to chime in there, Rob. I didn't want to hog the air there. But, it's not uncommon that somebody may read something that someone else wrote and think this is a fantastic idea. I'm going to build off it and make something out of it.
We were talking about switching attorneys. Here's an odd one. rad@radradio.com, name withheld from this writer, says our business attorney died.
Oh.
He was in the middle of writing up the business shares and or percentages of ownership between the two owners. He never completed the task. We were never notified of his passing professionally. We heard through other people in town. The lawyer left in charge of his clients will not take us on as he says there's a conflict. How can we get our retainer back?
Whoa.
There's a lot of layers to that one.
Yeah, that's odd. My first concern is that where are your files? Where's all the information, the documents that you provided, because you want that stuff. And anything that you've paid for with respect to services provided, you own that stuff. The other lawyer, I don't know why there would be some kind of conflict there unless there was a business deal with the deceased lawyer. That seems odd to me, but I would want the files.
The other thing that seems odd to me, it seems like a lawyer would have that in place because you could die at any time. Here's the list of my clients. You're the person in charge to get a hold of them, and here's some suggestions for other lawyers for them to have.
What do you mean, Don?
Well, I was going to actually ask Kevin, do you have such a plan?
What kind of nonsense is that?
I would think,
maybe.
Right?
Hello, Stephanie. Good morning.
Smart.
Good morning.
Got Mary.
Hi there.
Hi. So my question is, I went to Jiffy Lube, got the oil changed, was driving the car home with my son in the car, and the engine catch is on fire. While we're in the car, and the electric didn't work, so we had a hard time getting out of the car. We got out of the car. We're fine. We didn't have to go to the hospital. But we had a fire report completed, and the fire investigator determined that Jiffy Lube overfilled the oil, and it caught the Cadillac converter on fire, and that's what caused the fire.
What a cute girl, the Cadillac converter, the catalytic converter. Obviously, this is a random word of mouth story about a Jiffy Lube before we impugn the entire corporation. But if that's what the termination was,
I mean, that's frightening. First of all, I'm sorry to hear it. That's
traumatic to the kids. I would
right.
Of
That's
course.
horrifying for the kids.
You can't get out
Not
at
being able to
first?
get out is terrifying.
Gosh, dang it.
Jiffy Lube's got a problem in that scenario. Big problem.
This question comes up a lot. Another anonymous email. Do non-compete clauses in an employment contract hold up in California?
No.
Period. End of sentence. Now,
I love those answers.
somebody wrote in with a different question, and I can paraphrase it rather than struggling for it. Okay. So in general, a non-compete clause says if you leave my Jiffy Lube, we'll just stay with them. You can't go work at Speedy Oil Change for the next 6 months. And you're saying flatly, no, that doesn't work. However, there are exceptions, correct, if you say are leaving the business, or you guys agree that you're leaving the business, and they say, we are going to, for example, there's a story in the news right now. A guy named Shepard Smith just retired from Fox News Channel.
Shep did?
He walked out last Friday.
Yeah.
He asked to get out of his contract.
I love Shep.
Same.
Because Fox Fox has become for him such a Trump, not so many facts things. He wants out.
Or there's just not enough sexual harassment happening there anymore.
You never know what he's into, right? However, we know he made it clear he is not going to be working anywhere for a while. So you get into the scuttlebutt. Here's what people are saying, is that they came to an agreement because he was under contract. Okay, fine, Shep, you want out of your contract, that's fine. We're going to give you this amount of money, but you're not going to work at CNN, NBC, or anywhere else for this long. If that occurs in California, that's not the same thing as a non-compete, correct?
That is not. And there's a case, I can't recall, it was a Cincinnati Bengal football player who left the team. He was under contract to play for the Bengals. I believe it was the Bengals or the Browns, and just walked out. And it was a famous case that pretty much set the standard. And that is for indentured servitude reasons, right? Slavery. You can't be forced to work for somebody. However, if you're under contract with somebody, you can be prohibited from working for someone else.
As long as they're still paying you, though, right? Is that correct? Or you've been remunerated for that time period?
If the contract is still enforceable,
okay,
right? So that assumes that the other side has performed as well. You can't go work for a competitor, right? You can't go play for the Chargers. So like Shep can't go to CNN right now because he's supposed to be working for Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to work for Fox, but he can't go work for MSNBC. So yeah, he might be on the
makes
sideline
sense.
for a while.
And sometimes people convolute what non-compete is and what things like that are. So we wanted to clarify.
I mean, party it up. When you got some money, I mean, I would assume he already does, unless he's blown his money. Who knows? But he got
Lucky
something.
money.
Well, and
to
he'll
be,
probably have to
you
give
know?
some back too. I mean, because he's not performing. His payment, his compensation was for X, right? He's not doing X anymore. So-
Rumors were, to Don's point, that his most recent contract was for a mere $15 million a year, so he should have a few
Oh,
bucks.
How can he survive off that?
Phone number's 888-989-9811. More with Kevin Hughey after this.